Welcome to Leading Through Change, the podcast for purpose-driven leaders who know there's a better way to navigate crisis, complexity, change, and uncertainty. I'm your host, Melissa Agnes, founder of Crisis Ready Institute, creator of the Crisis Ready certification, and passionate believer that the way that we've been taught to lead no longer serves us. In fact, it often creates more harm, more disconnection, and more fear, and it's time to change that. If you're feeling called to lead differently, not from control, but from connection, not through reaction, but through aligned action, then you are in the right place, and I am so glad you're here. So with that being said, I see some people are live, and let's dive into this week's episode, which I'm so psyched to talk about. It's one of my favorite topics, and it's one of the things that no one really realizes, because the topic of today is the one truth that's destroying our world. Okay, if we look at any type of moment of change, which when I look at moments of change, I often look at crisis because one, yeah, sure, that's like the lens, that's my area of expertise, right? Crisis comms, crisis leadership. But also, crisis is a pivotal, catalytic moment for the momentum and the creation of change and needed change, because crisis occurs when something's not working, and crisis leads to harm, pain, suffering, whether to people, whether to a business, whether to the environment or the economy, right? So it's a big deal, and it is a moment for change. And so if I look at, like, I was doing kind of some research to kind of get my my creativity flowing and my memory flowing, because I don't have the greatest short-term memory with regards to all the crises and all the case studies. But if we look at, like, for example, COVID, massive failures in crisis response. We talked a little bit about that last week. The Peloton pandemic response, right? 2020 to 2022, that led to their response or their reaction to that crisis. Their stock fell from $171 to under $10. That's a 94% drop. They laid off 4,000 plus employees, which was nearly 30% of their workforce. They recalled products due to safety issues from rushed production, lost market leadership to connected competitors like Nordic Track. They required complete business model restructuring, right? All due to their poor management of a moment in time that called for change. We can go to the Wells Fargo account fraud crisis from 2016 and ongoing, right? Due to the situation, which was a cultural crisis, and due to their ineffective reaction. I'm going to say reaction because it wasn't a response, it was a reaction. 5,300 employees got fired. Many couldn't find banking jobs elsewhere. So families lost income. Customers had credit damage as a result of the fraud that the bank was committing on their customers, right? The economic hit was $3+ billion in fines, not to mention $142 billion in lost market value. Their trust was destroyed. They lost 3+ million customers, and they still have regulatory caps on growth in place 8 years later. And ultimately, they needed a complete leadership turnover, obviously, ongoing oversight to this day, and cultural rebuilding that is still happening today. So, like, I was just kind of going through, we can look at the Boeing 737 MAX crisis. We could look at the Baltimore Bridge collapse response, right? So any kind of crisis that we look at, and there's so many, and again, crises are moments for change. And they're often seen as, how do we revert back to when things were comfortable? How do we revert back to yesterday? Rather than seeing it through the lens of, oh, this is a moment that we have to realize, we have to acknowledge that something didn't work, and it is a moment to lead evolutionary change, right? To make the world a better place, to make our business better, to deepen our connection with our stakeholders, and ultimately create bigger profit margins and brand equity and all the things. When I look at ineffective responses to those types of moments of change, or any type of moment of change, there's one reason that organizations and leaders tend to fail recurringly, and that leads into the whole topic for today, which is the one truth that's destroying our world. Okay, and so while there's a lot of tactical reasons why organizations and leaders fail at leading through change or leading through moments of crisis, when I distill it down, often you'll hear me talk about emotion. Emotion has a huge thing to do with it, but today I kind of want to take it from a different lens, which goes even more profoundly deep, goes even more deeply, it goes even deeper on a profound level as to why. And that truth that's destroying our world is that, and here it comes, separateness is an illusion. That is a truth that is destroying our world. Separateness is an illusion is a fact, and we're going to explore that today. And the fact that it's ruining our world, is destroying our world, it's creating so many missed opportunities to lead through change in such a progressive, such a united, such a let's create a better place, a better world today than what it was yesterday opportunity. All of those opportunities get missed because of this one truth: separateness is an illusion that people, our world, has subscribed to. And so my intention for you today is to share this truth and share this knowledge, and hopefully to have you come out of this time with us, shared together, seeing the world through a completely different lens that you won't be able to unsee. And I'm going to give you some tactics and some tools to actually implement this at the end of our show today, as well as, of course, we'll do an embodied exercise to help you really kind of start to feel the difference between separateness and connection. So I'll start with why separateness is in fact an illusion. And the reason why is because we are all connected, period, and we're all wired for connection. And this is not just a truth, but this, as you'll see as we progress in this conversation, is such an opportunity, an advantage for the leaders who actually grasp and realize and embody this. Okay, so looking at the science alone, right? So quantum physics. I love talking about quantum physics, guys. If you go into the certification, we go so deep into quantum physics in a way that just changes the way you see everything, the way you experience your life, especially leading through times of change, right? So quantum physics is the science of, essentially, in my layman terms, the science of where everything originates from, where we come from. The base of what we are created from are subatomic particles. And subatomic particles are both wave, so energy, and particle, so matter. So we as human beings are both physical, right? We have our physical body, so this is our matter, and we have an energetic body, scientifically proven. And so everything, according to quantum physics, which is the science of where everything comes from, is made of energy. And energy is interconnected on a fundamental level. There is no separation when it comes to energy. In our previous episodes, we've talked about the heart's electromagnetic field, right? So part of our energetic field as human beings, each of us has it. Our heart's electromagnetic field extends multiple feet beyond our physical body's borders, which means that if somebody is standing close to you, even just in this small example, they also have an energetic field that is extending multiple feet beyond their body. So if they're 2 feet away from you and you're having a conversation, sure, your physical bodies are separate, but your energetic bodies, there's no boundaries there. So from a fundamental standpoint, from the way that we are created, we are all connected, we are all one, we are all energy. From a brain chemistry standpoint, neurotransmitters like oxytocin and dopamine drive bonding and social connections. So oxytocin is known as the love hormone, and it plays a key role in social bonding and trust, fostering feelings of connection. When we feel we're connected, we feel we can trust, we feel safe. So we are wired from a neurological standpoint to crave, to want, to need connection, to feel safe. And if you've listened to past episodes, we go deep into, or we go semi-deep, at least for now, into creating, or how we need to feel safe in order to lead through change, right? The nervous system, to get out of survival mode and into creation mode, which we've discussed, we need people, ourselves and those that we're leading, to feel safe. So our brain science is wired, our brains are wired to crave that connection that allows our nervous system to feel safe. If we look at social pain and physical pain, so again, neuroscience, neuroscientific studies have shown that social rejection, so being outcasted, being othered, and emotional pain activate the same brain regions associated with physical pain. When humans feel excluded or disconnected, the brain interprets it similarly to physical injury. It is actually physically painful to feel disconnected. Mirror neurons, one last one with neuroscience. These brain neurons fire when we observe others performing actions or experiencing emotions, right? This is kind of the basis of where empathy comes from. They're thought to be the biological basis for empathy and social bonding, further indicating that humans are wired for connection. If I see you hurting and my heart is open and I'm not disconnected from my body, which we've talked about, then I will feel at least a semblance of your pain. Because why? Because in that moment, you need to feel connection in order to feel safe, in order to re-regulate your nervous system, and in order to heal through the pain that you're going through. So our bodies are physically wired to create that for one another. We are interconnected. Two more sciences, community and well-being. So sociological studies show that humans thrive in communities. People who feel part of a supportive group tend to experience lower levels of stress, better coping skills during moments of change and crisis or chaos or uncertainty, and greater overall happiness. When we're in community, we thrive more when we're connected. And then lastly, cooperation and altruism. So studies on human behavior suggest that cooperation and helping others are innate to our species. In fact, helping others often triggers positive emotions, reinforcing the idea that we are biologically programmed to seek connection. So when we are connected, we actually begin a healing process that alleviates pain and suffering in moments of change, crisis, chaos, uncertainty. The world has subscribed to this illusion of separateness. And that is the problem. And that is the problem that is visionary, what we call in the certification, visionary crisis leaders. So visionary leaders who are able to lead effectively through change and crisis. What we understand differently is this fact that separateness is an illusion and where it comes from so that we can have compassion. So where this comes from, we talked, I think it was in episode 1, we talked about the ego and how the ego is the I, right? We're not talking about pride or arrogance or narcissism. We are talking about, in Latin, ego means I. We're talking about our individuality as human beings. So I am Melissa Agnes. That is my identity. That is my ego. Our ego is actually the source of this illusion because the ego creates our individuality. So while we have this energetic body that is interconnected, while we're wired for connection, we also have an ego that is designed to keep our personalized life experiences alive and thriving, which creates this notion or this illusion that we're separate, right? In order for me to stay alive, I don't necessarily care what happens to you. To thrive, like it's all about me, and that's the ego's job. So it's not a bad thing. But we have to recognize it for what it is. It is an illusion. So the fact that the ego creates our individuality is separateness, right? I am Melissa Agnes. I am not Mark Elsenheimer. Am I saying that right? I'm not Mark Elsenheimer, who's also on this live chat today, right? I am Melissa Agnes. So then it gives me the illusion that my individuality is separate from your individuality. This gets amplified when we are in lower emotional frequencies, fear, anger, resistance, jealousy, grief, we get into lower states of emotional frequency and our ego kicks in to self-preserve, to self-protect. So if you think about it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments in the chat. If you think about it, if you are, let's just take it home. If you're at home and you're in an argument with somebody that you care deeply about, maybe it's your significant other, maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's a parent, right? You're in a disagreement and that person has made you feel angry, has triggered anger within you. What do you want to do? Do you feel like leaning in and giving them a hug in that moment and fostering connection? Or do you feel like maybe going to the other room and be like, I don't feel like talking to you right now? Yes, we have to process through our emotions. Absolutely. And that's a healthy thing, is to not like yell at somebody when you feel angry, but to go and take time to regulate your nervous system. Absolutely. But we also get this feeling in those moments of fight, flight, or freeze. I know I'll just speak personally. If something happens in my personal relationship with my fiance and I feel hurt, my natural tendency is to want to run. That is creating separateness. That is creating distance. That is othering, right? That is my nervous system. That is my ego going, you're hurt, put up your walls, and go be alone because alone is safe. So it is so easy to fall, I wanted to say to fall prey to this illusion because it's designed to keep us safe. And yet it really is an illusion, because once I go back to my fiance and I actually express vulnerably through my heart and I say, I was hurt when you did this or you said this or this happened, etc. Here's my lived experience of that. And he responds in a loving, compassionate way. Immediately, I'm no longer wounded, right? I've healed and we're even closer. We feel connected. We feel our love. We feel our bond. And the trick here is, and I'll talk about this in a second, but the trick here is to remember this as a leader who's leading through change, to remember all of this in the moments when those lower frequency emotions are kicking in. When they're kicking in for you, whether you're scared because now you have to lead through this change and it's very scary and people are upset or people are, right? There's like all this energy and this lower frequency emotional, which is very strong and very potent on an energetic level coming at you. It can be so natural. It is so natural to want to put up your shields and to disconnect. Meanwhile, those people who are in those states of fear or grief or anger or whatever they're feeling are actually craving connection on a deeper level than just the emotions that are activating their survival instincts. And we have to know this as leaders, because it is the deepest, most potent pathway to successful crisis management, change management, etc. Why separateness is in fact harmful is another area that I want to explore, because why not just succumb to it? Why not just succumb to the illusion that we're separate and just live our lives the way that we've been living them, the way that we've constructed our entire society, if I look around, is all based on the illusion of separateness. And it's wild. And in my opinion, it is exactly why we live in such chaos. Because everybody has subscribed, including leaders, to the illusion of separateness. Why? Because we haven't been taught otherwise. And now it's time to change that. Leading through change, right? We get to change this. We get to lead this path. So there's this Buddhist philosophy / teaching that says this: all suffering comes from the illusion of separateness. The moment we see our connection to all beings, suffering dissolves. That's profound, especially when we're looking at moments of change and crisis and chaos and uncertainty. So when I look around and I look at leaders who lead through crisis, leaders who are leading through change, and I watch them lead from a place of separateness, what are we going to find? You're going to find avoidance. You're going to find blaming. You're going to find leaders who are covering up all self-protection mechanisms. You're going to find deflection. You're going to find greed, right? Othering. If greed comes from the scarcity mindset, which again goes to the illusion of separateness, that we're not all one. And greed means that in order for me to have, you must not have. Because if you have, that means I don't have. That is scarcity mindset. That is an illusion. Guilt tripping. We'll find people who are shaming others, who are blaming, who are guilt tripping, who are othering. Essentially, this is all about othering. We will find resistance. So organizations that are staying silent, resisting actually admitting truths that they should be admitting to, right, in order to create healing, in order to create connection. We'll ultimately find shaming and self-serving behaviors because of the ego's individuality, because of the ego's desire, need to self-preserve and self-protect. And when we allow that to create the illusion of separateness, we put up these walls and we create disconnection, which creates pain and suffering, period, full stop. Then, if we look at it, we can look at it as there's kind of separateness happens in two ways. So there's the unconscious way, which is essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about the ego putting you in survival mode and creating the illusion or subscribing to the illusion of separateness and creating pain and suffering. Said simply, that's what we're talking about. So that's an unconscious level. And when I look around the world, I see that unconscious behavior all the time. Everywhere I turn, ultimately, I see that. Yesterday, I was on a flight home from Denver, and there was a woman. I was sitting one row behind first class, so I was in Comfort Plus. And the woman in first class got all up in arms, started screaming and yelling because somebody from the back of the plane used her bathroom in first class. And she went ballistic, disrupting the entire plane because she was upset that somebody else was using her bathroom. And when I boil that down, I go, there's the illusion of separateness. There's forgetting that we are all connected. There's forgetting, when we forget that we are all connected, we lose compassion, right? And we create pain and suffering. So she made that person upset. She offended him. She was rude to him. She was cruel to him. She made the whole plane upset because this woman is screaming because somebody used her bathroom, right? And she was subscribing to the illusion of separateness, that she was somehow more privileged and entitled than somebody else for something as basic as using a restroom, right? When the line over there was 10 people deep. So if we look around, we can see this unconscious subscription to the illusion of separateness everywhere we look. And when we go down the path of what it creates, ultimately, it's pain and suffering, right? People weren't happy during that flight. People now, certain nervous systems need to be regulated because this woman upset us. And then, so that's one way in which separateness happens, and that's the most common because we haven't been taught these things. The other way is conscious. And this one is really, really, really important to be aware of because some people know this. There are people in our world, there are people in prominent positions in our world, organizationally, community-wise, government-wise, just period, who know that the more that our society subscribes to the illusion of separateness, the more change won't occur. I'll let that land with you. So separateness is actually sometimes used as a tactic, as a strategic, conscious tactic to keep the world down, to keep society down, which means what? To keep others up. It's used as a tactic for those who have scarcity mindset, who see the world as, in order for me to win, nobody else can win. And so when it's used as a conscious tactic, that is when we, leaders who are able to lead through change, need to see this for what it is, because the only antidote to separateness is connection. So connection, when we're leading through change, needs to be the strategy. It is the strategy. Seeking connection. How do we connect further? How do we connect further with the truth? How do we connect further with ourselves? How do we connect further with source or the divine or intuition, right? To help guide us through moments of uncertainty, which I talked about last week a little bit. How do we connect further with those our organization or our community or our government is designed to lead and to serve so that we can create unity and less pain and suffering? Connection needs to be the strategy, not succumbing to the illusion of separateness. Doing this, allowing connection to be the strategy, requires a few things. It requires remembering that separateness is an illusion. When your ego, when you are in survival mode and your ego is self-protecting, self-preserving, and you want to fight, flight, or freeze, it takes a conscious awareness and choice to go, I know what's happening right now. I understand why I'm feeling this way. And I know that this and acting in this way is going to create more pain and suffering. So I need to self-regulate. I need to move through my emotions. We're not talking about suppression. We're not talking about deflection, right? We're not talking about pushing them down. We're not talking about bypassing them. I need to move through my emotions to get into creation, to open my heart and literally open your heart's electromagnetic field and lean into connection. Because while it may feel uncomfortable to me right now, which creates fear, we talked about this and think in episode 1, I know better, I know bigger. We have to remember that. And then from there, honestly, this takes practice. It takes practice to remember. It takes practice to connect with yourself when you're in these states of lower frequency emotion, which are so natural, and to choose connection above the illusion of separateness. And as a leadership hack, when we are talking about leading through crisis, when we're talking about leading through change, knowing this is a game changer. Game changer. When you know that even though people are upset, that even though people are in fear or are furious, while they're feeling those things, every single thing about their genetic makeup and their, like from a their subatomic particles, like from a quantum standpoint, what they're made of and how they're wired is actually craving connection, then this can be a point of a source of truth and empowerment and support for your ability to go, okay, I know this. So how do we create that? When I think of examples of leaders who do this, right? Unfortunately, there aren't many because the world has subscribed to the illusion of separateness. And we allow our survival state to run the show more often than actually consciously getting ourselves out of survival and into creation and opening up our heart portal and creating connection, which I fully believe would change the world, like pivotal, 180 degrees, change the world towards the better, which means that we get to do it, which means that you get an advantage because you're learning about it before everybody else. So when I think about leaders, I think, look, we go back to, go way back to, I think it was 89, but also in 2020, Johnson & Johnson, Tylenol. They just continuously do this incredible job at going, okay, what we're faced with, for example, back in 89, when, I think it was 89, when people were dying of cyanide poisoning because somebody had tampered with bottles across the country, like bottles of Tylenol, Johnson & Johnson leaned into connection by remembering that it's about putting people first and lives first. And as a result, it cost them a lot of money to resolve this crisis, but that crisis could have cost them their entire existence as a brand. And instead, they created such profound trust in the way that they managed that situation because they leaned into connection. They were strong enough to do so. This takes great courage. The Airbnb pandemic pivot, 2020 to 2021, right? Airbnb when the travel industry was collapsing and were experiencing 80% of revenue drop, Airbnb decided to connect with hosts as partners rather than just seeing them as vendors. And they created Host Relief Fund and adapted the platform for local stays. And they had a faster recovery than competitors, stronger host relationships extended over time. And they expanded their market, right? They created connection. And as a result, they created trust and they built brand equity. Dolly Parton, during the pandemic, when there was vaccine hesitancy and political division, Dolly Parton, connected across political divides with humor, humility, and shared humanity, right? Remembering that we're all one. And her goal of that was to create unity in a moment where the world was very divided. And her mission was also to increase vaccine acceptance. And she was successful in that because she leaned into connection over division. And my favorite example is, again, during the pandemic, where former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, the way that she leaned into connection during the pandemic, when her entire country, 5 million people, were in fear just like the rest of the world. We're not looking at the politics here, but we're looking at how she created connection with her team of 5 million people. So she looked at us as a unit, us, her country, as a unit, not as the government to the people with the separateness and the othering, right? She connected her government to their citizens, and her goal was to not have any deaths, or to have as few deaths from COVID as possible. And she was so successful. They had the lowest death rates globally, which was her goal, right? So that's success. They had the highest public trust in government that the country had ever seen in those moments. And they had economic resilience when everybody else's economy was dropping. When we lean into connection, we overcome the illusion of separateness. We feed the wiring of how we're created as human beings. We create unity, and we're able to successfully lead through change in a way that reduces pain and suffering, because connection is healing. Okay, I want us to experience this together. So we're going to do what we do with every single episode. We do for those of you who are new to the show, we do a few moments that we just did on cognitive learning. So learning something new and allowing it to make sense to our brains. And then we do a somatic learning, right? Where we allow our nervous system to feel what our brain just learned so that you can actually integrate it more quickly, integrate the learnings more quickly, and become the embodied leader that I am here to help you become. So, for those of you who are not driving and who have the opportunity, the space and time to take a few minutes to shut off all distractions, to get comfortable in your seats, and to go on this journey with me, we're going to go on a journey. So in order to want to connect and to override the programming of our brains that say that we are individual, that we are separate, especially in moments of dysregulated nervous system, we have to get out of our analytical mind and into our bodies, first and foremost. Then we have to breathe in and out through the heart to expand the heart's electromagnetic field. The more that we do this, the more that we practice this, the safer we get to feel as individuals in our own bodies. Which means that when you're leading through change and everybody else is dysregulated and all of this energy and lower frequency emotions are coming at you, if you can find safety in your own body, then you will more quickly be able to remember and to access connection to yourself, and then ultimately connection with others, because connection needs to be the strategy, and connection requires, in those moments, requires deep courage. And the safer we feel in our nervous system, in our bodies, the more we are able to transform and grow. The less risky it actually feels to be vulnerable because we feel safe. So our level of safety is directly correlated to our level of transformation as individuals, right? Leading through change. So that's why every week we practice this. It is essential. So without further ado, for those of us, because I'm included, who are able to take a few moments to yourself right now, I invite you to do so. Put your phone on silent, turn off distractions, get settled into your seat, wherever you may be sitting. And let's just take a few deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, just to get present with the here and now. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. Invitation to shut down your eyes if that feels comfortable to you, or to soften your gaze if that feels more comfortable to you. Again, in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. As you do this breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, invitation to just feel the seat below you. Feel the seat below you, feel the floor or the ground below your feet, and feel how solid it is. How you are invited and safe to just allow your breath to sink you deeper and deeper into the space that's holding you, because it's able to hold you. Letting go of your to-do list for a few moments, gifting yourself this time. Everything will be there waiting for you. Taking these few moments will not change that, will not create consequence towards that. Calling back all of your attention and energy from all the different times and spaces, from this morning, from yesterday, and just settling into your breath here and now. We're going to take a few breaths. And as you breathe in through the nose and out through your mouth, invitation to just sink in deeper, feeling the breath come through your nostrils, fill your body up with oxygen, with life, with energy. And then exhaling all of any tension that might exist in your body. And even just as you do this, noticing the difference of how you may have felt a few moments ago to how you may feel now as you let your body relax, as you let your awareness drop to the simplicity and the potency, the power of your breath. Bringing your awareness to your heart space, maybe putting your hand on your heart. And imagining those breaths that you're taking coming in and out of your heart space. It's your heart that's breathing in. The energy, the calm. And if you notice that this feels good to you, let it. As you tap into your body, as you allow this sensation of being home in your body feel good, I'm going to invite you to do two things, one at a time. The first is to recall a moment, a recent moment in time where you felt activated, you felt tension, you felt stress, you felt angry, maybe you felt hurt or disappointed. And I want you to go into that moment, into the remembrance of that moment, and feel how your body felt, and if you had a pull towards separateness. Separateness in this sense can be fight, flight, or freeze. Maybe you wanted to yell at someone. Maybe you really just wanted to run away and self-protect. Maybe you just froze and you felt so isolated and alone and all by yourself in that moment, even if you were around a room full of people. Just bring back a memory and explore in that remembrance what your body felt like. We're not analyzing the why. We're not going down the narrative or the story of he said, she said, he did, she did, whatever. We're just exploring with curiosity what the body felt like and how your nervous system reacted. Did it feel good? Did it feel isolating? Did it feel painful, emotionally, physically, energetically? And what were you inclined to do? Once you've experienced that memory, come back to the body, come back to the heart. Let's take a few breaths. Let's take a few grounding breaths. Sinking deeper into the body where it feels good, where it feels safe. Expanding those breaths through the heart center. Activating our heart's electromagnetic field. That portal for connection. And once it feels good in the space, now my second invitation is to recall a moment where you felt deep connection, alignment. Maybe it's a moment where your child ran to you and ran into your arms and you just got overwhelmed with the emotion and the energy of love. Maybe it's a moment where you felt deeply connected with your significant other or somebody who just really truly matters to you. Maybe it's a moment where you were with your team and you were all aligned and you were all in sync and you were all in flow and you were all creative and expansive and energized about the objective, the goal that you're working through together. And that feeling of connection and unity. Whatever it is, just bring back a moment And allow yourself, breathing in and out through your heart space, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Allow yourself to feel that feeling, those emotions, and the energy of those emotions, because emotions are energy in motion. So what did that connection feel like? How good did it feel in that moment? Allow yourself to feel it. Allow it to embody you, to encompass you. What does it feel like to remember what that felt like? Remembering that feeling, allowing this moment, in this moment, to take a snapshot of the memory of how good that felt. Let it feel addictive. Because when you're in moments of survival, when you're in moments of fear and resistance and self-preservation, if you can take a snapshot of what it feels like in your body to feel the depths of connection, you can train your body to get there more easily, with more ease and more potency in moments when you feel the contraction, when you feel the resistance. So just take a moment to breathe into the memory one last time, remembering what it feels like. Allow a smile to come to your face, because that feels good. Now coming back to the heart, back to the body, a few last breaths. And when you're ready, returning to the here and now, coming back to the screen, and sharing with me in the comments, if you feel so called, what did it feel like to feel the two different types of sensations? The want to retract and to retreat, or to fight, or to freeze. And the depths of the connection. What did it feel like for you? Did you notice a difference? How do you feel now? Taking a moment to reflect and to share with me, I would love to hear, truly, truly. As I share with you, so Mark shares tense and crumpled versus relaxed and open. Yes, crumpled. When we are in fear, when we're in resistance, right? When our ego is self-protecting, it creates this contraction. And I want you to remember, I invite you to remember that when you feel that, just make this conscious decision and choice right now that you will remember that what that is, it's self-preservation, it's fear, it's ego, it's natural, and that relaxed and open is more expansive, is more uniting. So remembering, making the choice to remember now that when you feel contracted, when you feel resistant, remembering that there is a different option. And that if you take a moment to regulate your nervous system and to get centered and to get grounded and to remember that safety can exist in the body and that connection is healing and that everybody you are leading is wired for connection, is craving it, is longing for it, even though they might be in lower frequency emotions and dysregulated nervous system, then let that empower you in the moment as you are leading through those moments and leading through change to create a better world, a better tomorrow. This is what I know to be true. Separateness is an illusion. That is a truth. That is a deep, deep, deep truth. Every failed crisis response, every leader who loses trust and credibility, every brand that loses brand equity, every moment of change that fails and that reverts back to broken systems, all traces back to the illusion of separateness and the leader's subscription to that illusion. Because the real truth is that we are all one and we are wired for connection. The science is undeniable, from quantum physics showing us that we're all interconnected energy, to neuroscience proving our brains are designed for collaboration, to social science demonstrating that connection literally regulates our nervous systems. Every aspect of our being confirms this truth that we are meant to be united, not divided. And this truth, this knowledge, and the ability to have this embodied wisdom, which is the somatic practice that we just did, gives you a profound advantage as a leader. So when everyone else is operating from the illusion of separateness, which if you look around the world, everybody is operating from this illusion, creating silos, building walls, choosing us versus them language and tactics and mentalities, you get to lead from the truth of connection, and truth will always prevail, and connection is truth. It will work because no matter what, it is what our human systems crave and seek. So when others are unconsciously creating division during change, you can consciously create unity and override those other tactics, those other leaders, because yours is aligned with truth, with depth, deep truth. When others are isolating in fear, you can be the leader who brings people together. This isn't just a nice philosophy. This isn't just, oh, Melissa, you're such an idealist. This is a competitive advantage because it is a truth. This is how you become the leader others instinctively trust when everything feels uncertain. It is the heart of your strategy for leading through change. It needs to be the heart of your strategy. And it is not for the faint or the weak, because it takes great courage. Great, great courage. So 2 things that you can do, if this speaks to you, if this calls to you, and you want to be this type of leader, there's 2 things that you can start to do as of today. 1, start to notice. Look around the world, look around your workplace, look around your competitors, look at home, look at your community, look at your friends, look at everything around you, and spot where people have subscribed to the illusion of separateness, and spot alternatively where people lean into connection. And just look at, I'm not asking you to do anything about it right now, I'm asking you to observe. What does the illusion of separateness look like? How does it manifest? What are the actions that are taken, and what are the results? Pain and suffering. And when a leader is strong enough and courageous enough to move through their lower frequency emotions and their resistance and lean into connection, what are the actions? What do you feel? What's the difference, and what are those results? So that's the first piece of homework or practice. The second is to actually practice. And you can practice this in safe environments. You can practice this in your next argument with your significant other or somebody you care deeply about, right? When you feel like, I don't want to right now, right? Like, I'm just angry. I just want to run away, or whatever it might be. I want to fight, whatever it is, fight, flight, freeze. Remembering in that moment to take a few breaths and to lean into connection as an exploration will train your nervous system to feel safe. Because why? Because you will find a better outcome through connection than you will through separateness. And oftentimes we get there anyway, right? We resolve our disagreements and our arguments with our significant others, right? But how consciously can you lessen the gap between wanting to fight, flight, freeze, and going, okay, I'm going to open my heart and I'm going to lean into connection, right? It happens anyway. So how can you lessen the gap between the two? The timeline between the two. That's the practice. At work, you can do the same thing. How do you lean into connection over separateness in slow increments so that you can experience the powerful impact and results of this? I want to hear from you. As you put this into practice, please DM me, email me, send me a note on Crisis Ready Institute's website. Let me know how it's going. This fuels me. This is how we make the world a better place. So if you are doing this, if you're putting this into practice and you share your results with me, even if they feel so small, share your wins with me. It's going to fuel my raison d'être, my reason for being. And if this episode has opened something in you, if you can feel the truth of connection calling you to lead differently, know that this is exactly the work that we do within the Crisis Ready certification. You take 6 months to become this leader with support, with science, with a somatic practice, and with actual application. The certification is where purpose-driven leaders develop the presence, the awareness, and the embodied skills to choose connection over separateness, especially when the stakes are the highest. Our grads choose to lead from unity instead of division, and I can tell you firsthand and with all honesty, they are changing the world. It is phenomenal. It is so humbling what our grads are doing. Our next cohort begins in June. So if there's something about your system that is saying, yes, I want to learn this, or this feels good to me, hit me up. Send me a DM, send me an email, comment on this post, comment wherever you're watching or reading this from, and I will get in touch with you, or go to crisisreadyinstitute.com, click the Get Certified button, and apply. Our next cohort starts in June, and I can't wait. I can't wait to experience the next 9 months with the group of individuals who are joining for this next group. Okay, and of course, come back. I'm here every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, or the recording is available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So join me each week. Send me notes and questions because they become the next episodes. I love doing this. I love teaching this stuff. I love empowering you guys with this stuff. I will see you next week. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being interactive in the comments. It means everything to me. And until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and choose connection. Bye.